We're good. We're solid. We know what we're doing. We're just listening.
I know. My TV again.
Hello and happy time zones, everybody. Welcome to another week of crazy. And it will be. I'm trying to open this in another window. While I'm saying hi, let's say what we're working on and who we are. Oh, and Lady Charlie Goldfish.
Who is starting this?
You can start.
Hello, my name is Meadow. I am halfway through my makeup. When I'm done with that, I'm going to do last checks on my client thing and then send it to them. And then after that, I have no idea.
Julio.
Yeah.
Hi. I am here. I exist. I will something. I really want to be doing edits because I want to get the next chapter of my Vela thing up, but the gremlins are real, and I don't know if they'll let me do anything. So, huzzah!
I'm Chloe, and I'm on episode 6 of The Witcher, season 2.
I haven't started it yet.
I wanted to be productive today. I'm supposed to be. I applied for a job and they sent me an aptitude test that I have to do. But it's horrifying what they sent me. I love tests. It's what they sent me, which was like the worst blog post known to humanity that I am supposed to edit. And I'm like, I don't want to. So like I tried to do it today and thankfully I didn't do any notes on it. So they don't know that I've read it like 5 times now. And keep thinking I can't. Like, it's if this was something that somebody had sent me to edit, I'd be like, okay, let's get on Zoom and talk about this for a little bit. So yeah,
I feel that.
Yeah. Like, I feel like that is the way that this needs to be handled. We need to discuss how to write a blog post, and then we can take 2 on this.
Well, so I'm guessing it's for an editing position.
Yes.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
It makes sense that they'd be testing that.
Yeah, it just was not, I don't know. I feel like it would make more sense to give like a standard one as opposed to the worst possible thing you could ever see. Like, because I feel like in most jobs, like your skill set depends on like what the average thing is and not the worst possible thing you could ever get.
Every time you say that, I'm just like, do I need to sue them? Did they like pirate something from my blog and like?
Oh my God.
Is there a way to fix this? How would you fix this?
Worst part is that like grammatically it's perfectly fine. And I thought, well, at least I could like read and like hit all the grammar errors, fix all those commas, and then like go back and do the like, dude, everything is wrong here. And it turned out that grammatically everything is fine. There are some sentences that need to be the whole thing needs to be rewritten, but like there are definitely some sentences that could be fixed, but overall, like it, yeah.
So it's not worst possible scenario.
No, because if it was like filled with grammatical errors, I'd be done with it in 10 minutes. Like, here's every fucking thing that you did wrong on it. We're good. Let's move on. But these are all developmental issues.
Again, the title of one of my autobiographies.
So this thing is about a file sharing platform. And first of all, I have no idea until like 3/4 of the way through that it is a pitch for this program. Like, it's not in the title or anything. And also it starts out with a broad definition of sharing. And then it gives a definition of sharing in the data sense, except it doesn't even actually like say it properly. Like, I don't know about y'all, but I'm used to the term being file sharing as opposed to data sharing. And so like it took me a minute to even figure out that was what the hell they were talking about. Like, oh, sweet Jesus.
feel like I have a new writing prompt to work from. Sharing is caring, unless you're not into that.
Oh, I believe that. Oh no, it's not sharing is caring. The title of oh no, it is the title of it is sharing is caring, but in business it means more. So that's the other thing is that like I'm not so they know that I don't have a background in blog editing. Like I don't at any point claim that I have ever edited blogs. Um so like the other thing with this is that like this title is completely wrong, except that this is not my wheelhouse, so I don't know what to say other than okay, first of all, you need to have work drive in the title, but also it's just bad. Um, and you know, when you're used to editing 80,000 words, those first four words that are on the first page to like give you an idea of what the book is, like don't it doesn't matter. Like that is the author's problem, not my problem.
Thanks.
So for me, I think what I'm working on today, since I've had a day, um, not not one of the days from hell, just woke up with a migraine. I've had poor sleep for a couple of days. I have two streams that this is my second stream today. Um, and So I knew I couldn't rest, and I have my Christmas stuff with family tomorrow, so I can't rest tomorrow either. So it's basically I was just like, oh my god, my body is not ready for all of this. Um, I seem to be okay now, but that's kind of how my day has been. Um, but as far as pumping out anything creative, I don't think that's in the cards. I don't think my brain can do that. But I do have like 8 pages of handwritten stuff that I can transcribe and maybe edit. So I'll be working on that because I don't have to think of new stuff when I'm doing that.
I've been thinking about what I'm going to do when I'm done with my client thing. And I started weeks ago, I started rewriting my Gatekeepers book, like just completely restarting it from the beginning. And it's now in present tense instead of past tense. And it's interesting.
I find that challenging.
Oh, tense, where are you?
To switch tense or to be in present tense?
Both, but for me, I present tense is just not something that my brain functions.
I can write in either third past or first present and no other combination of the two.
When you do RPGs, do you do it in present tense or past tense?
Are you talking to me or Jace?
Jace, sorry.
Okay.
Um no, I can do that. I can do it in first present when I'm saying it, you know. But that's like, what I'm currently doing, but when I'm actually writing, it just defaults to past. And that's what's challenging.
Also, Chloe, I apologize if I interrupted you.
What was that?
I'm sorry if I interrupted you because I kind of just blurted out my thought without.
Oh, no. I was done talking. It was just
Okay,
that I wasn't sure if you were asking me, and I was like, I don't write those, so I don't have an answer.
Yeah, because I thought you were done, so I was like, okay, I'll say my thing before I forget. And then I was like, wait, she might not have been done.
No, I was absolutely done. You're fine.
Yeah, but like I said, when I'm writing something down, if I try and do it in present, I have to go back and find like 700 past tense things to fix because my brain automatically past tensed them.
I do, like, during Nano, I was working on 2 different projects, and one of them was in past and one was in present. And when I switched to the present tense one, I ended up with a ton of errors, but like
Mhm.
that's just trying to get the brain to switch gears. So
Yeah.
I was not surprised about that.
Well, what I decided to do for switching is I pulled up the document on my computer and then I hand wrote what was on my screen onto the paper, but I switched as I wrote it down. And then once I had it written down, because I also did like minor plot, character, blah 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 changes too. And then once I had each chapter done, I would then type what I wrote down onto the computer. So that helped.
And we should probably say hi to the people in chat.
Hey,
Hi.
people in chat.
We have a CB here, and we have Tugwaddle. Hi, Devin. And we have Jennifer. Hello, Jennifer. And we have Carrie. Hello, Carrie. I don't know. Suddenly, I am
Hi,
Jackie Harry.
Declan. Yeah.
Hello,
Okay.
Carrie. Hey, Nikki. How's it
I
going?
apologize, Carrie, if I do that in the future. It's in my brain now, and it will never leave.
Let's see. CB says, I'd never blogged before, but I wrote enough essays at school to know that there should be an introduction to whatever.
Oh, yeah. So, CB, with the opening paragraph having introduced you to the idea service app, usually in this kind of blog, the introduction is introducing the problem. Like, this is what the problem is. And then we're going to talk about this great new program we have that is the solution to that problem. So it's like, it wasn't weird that it had this. The weirdness with the opening was that it sounded like it was talking to third graders and not business people, which would be the target demographic for this thing.
We host a lot of business dinners, and I'm not sure that there's not a big overlap in mental capacity there.
That is fair, but also you don't want to talk to them like you think that they are third graders because they will get mad. Talk to them like third graders, but don't talk to them like you think they're third graders. So, like, instead of like opening with a definition for sharing, you can give like an example of sharing just in case they need to be reminded what sharing is, but make it sound like a situation that we've all been through. Here's a funny anecdote about sharing that we've all been through, but in the business world, we're actually talking about data sharing.
Just a theory. I bet you that this was written based on a speech template, because a lot of like classic old business books tell you to start with a definition and go into an anecdote. And
Oh, that's fair. It could be,
but
yeah.
it sounds like it's an old school speech more than a blog post.
Yeah. It also, like, it reads, the whole thing reads very much like a, 10th grade or a freshman year business class research paper from somebody who has never had anybody work with them on how to write essays that actually sound appropriate, as opposed to just the general in class, here are the parts of an essay. Yeah.
I'm glad I work on fiction.
Yeah, I'd rather be working on fiction, but like beggars can't be choosers right now. I need a job.
Let's see. Nikki is working what I'm working on today is finishing up watching the rest of season 2 of The Witcher.
I haven't started season 2 yet.
I have to wait for the hubby to get home.
And CB is working on book 3 of Stark for President. Books 1 and 2 are on Wattpad, AO3, and fanfiction.net. Excuse me.
I have been enjoying season 2 of The Witcher, and there was a point, I am by myself watching it, and there was a point where I vocally said, "What is that? What is that?" And I feel like that is the sign of a good show. When I'm literally lying in bed and like, I need to talk about this to the air.
I
I
don't know if that's a sign of a good show because I was saying that during this new season of Doctor Who.
Oh, like you were yelling at the screen because things
It
are
was
bad.
more like, what the fuck are you doing? Don't
Yeah, no,
introduce
this
it.
was
You've got 20 plot lines going on. You've got one episode left. Don't introduce a new plot line.
Stop calling out
this
my writing
was
like this.
this was that meme of the guy being shocked by Susan Boyle's performance. Y'all know the meme I'm talking about. That
Yeah.
yeah.
All I can say about The Witcher so far, because we're only a couple episodes into it, is so far I am not upset by the portrayal of Vesemir, and that is a very high bar that this series had to get over because I love Vesemir, and mm, Witcher Daddy, you are such a sweet, cold, angry man.
Also, I did not notice in season 1 that Ciri looks like simultaneously young Lindsay Lohan and old Lindsay Lohan, and I don't know how I never noticed that before. But in this season, I'm like,
Yes.
I can't actually tell if you're Parent Trap or like drug trap Lindsay Lohan.
She has been they have done such a good job throughout the seasons to show the grime that has grown up on her through her travels, that after she took a bath I was like, did they recast her? Like,
Yeah,
I literally had to look at IMDb because I forgot what she looked like clean.
yeah,
It's just like,
yeah,
is
very
this
much
the
so.
same person?
Oh, I need to get a timer.
Yes, yes, you do.
I mean, without all the mud on your face, how am I supposed to recognize you?
Well, the client thing I'm working on right now is for a short story anthology that the person is doing with a bunch of other book talkers and author talk people. And the book itself is called Fat Girls in Fantasy. So I'm excited because, you know,
Because you're a fantasy.
Especially
yeah,
with the makeups and the hair.
it's just cool because she had made a TikTok saying like, why is there such a lack of fantasy books with fat protagonists? Like there's just
Yeah.
not really that many. So she's like, you know what? Let's do an anthology. Anybody who wants to write a short story about a fat female character in a fantasy setting, let's work together. So they're doing the anthology, and this is somebody I've previously worked with from TikTok, and she's like, hey, I've got another novella. Would you want to work on it with me? I was like, sure. So she sent it to me, and then I saw at the top that it was for the anthology. I was like, yes.
You know what? I want to come back to that and actually have a conversation, a positive conversation, um,
Rock and roll, baby.
Yeah, it's
about,
something that when I was casting my current fantasy work, I thought a lot about.
um,
Yeah.
and we can have that conversation after a sprint.
Ooh.
Just because we really need to do a sprint.
Let's do it.
But yeah, when we come back, I want to chat about not just that particular group, but just underrepresented groups being brought forward because of indie publishing, because that stuff just doesn't happen otherwise. Um, all right, so we will sprint in 3, 2, 1, go. Beepity 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 motherfucker. That was a very, very productive sprint, but not the productive that I was intending.
Well, I discovered that the editing function on Microsoft Word has an inclusion check now. Example, there was the word barmaid in the story, and
Oh.
Google or the Microsoft wanted me to change it to bartender, so it's gender neutral.
But a barmaid isn't a bartender. Those are two different jobs, one of which doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, and then it wanted me to change barmen into bartenders.
Yeah.
And it wanted me to change seamstress to tailor.
So like I feel like this is a good function, but not for what you're using it for.
And it wanted me to change giantess into giant.
Yeah. This is not for like historical or fantasy.
Right.
Mhm.
It's like I appreciate you're wanting to like make things gender neutral for like if I'm writing like a report for a professional thing, absolutely, because the men and the women in the business place will be like it would be gender neutral, so yeah. But this is like a fantasy thing with like it's using the word giantess because it's a female giant. So like I don't
Mhm.
need you to change it to giant because it's a female giant. So giantess will work just fine, thanks.
Yeah, that would be. It's a good thing in general, but not for fiction.
Yeah, so
And
my
I
last
feel like we are not the target demographic for Microsoft Word.
checks always are like going through the editing function and seeing if it did catch anything I missed, because sometimes it does. So I'm just like going through and like either I'm clicking ignore on like 99% of the things.
But
But every once in a while.
when I'm editing someone's work and it brings up something, and I'm just like, no, no, what they said is correct.
Mhm.
Um, you're allowed to ignore suggestions.
Mhm.
But there were a couple of things that I doom scrolled by that are quick fire things, but I needed to share them.
Okay.
The first one is something for Chloe.
Oh
You're at
dear.
work and they tell you that they want this. How quickly do you quit?
Oh, so you know what's funny is that did you nope, you saw it from a different person. When I saw it, I was like, I would like to know what the base of that is so I can make it myself.
See,
'Cause I would absolutely love to make that thing. I worry though that they are using the like green craft styrofoam with like saran wrap or something like that over it, but because it's toothpicks it's still going into that craft styrofoam, and it will absolutely pick up that craft styrofoam and then you'll eat it, like microscopic bits of it. So I thought this thing was super clever. I don't know that there is a good way of making it that would
You
actually
gotta
be safe.
you gotta make like a cone-shaped bread of some sort.
I would worry about it not being stable if it was bread. Like,
Mhm.
the only way I could think to do this that would be safe would be like an actual wooden dowel that you covered in. Like, the only thing I can even think to cover it in would be the Rice Krispie, like they do with cakes. They sometimes
Yeah.
use Rice Krispie to do rigid structures on cakes. But and then I guess that would work if you covered it in plastic wrap. So you don't transfer any of the sugar onto it. Um yeah, that's how I would make it. But like I would absolutely geek the fuck out on that and love making it every second.
All I know is that image proved to me that I'm in fantasy writer mode because I looked at it and I was like, this year in the war on Christmas, the trees are fighting back. Seeing all the spikes coming out of the tree, it just like, yeah.
So the second thing I found, is a woman deliberately writing an introduction to a man in the style of men writing women badly.
I love those.
Okay.
This is, as I looked into his innocent green eyes, I knew that my womanly presence was arousing his taut testicles, that with every little gasping breath they vibrated against each other, firm and plump beneath his starched trousers, and he blushed as he knew that I knew.
Yeah, that's accurate. That is exactly what it sounds like sometimes, yes.
I need to
Oh,
send you all some of the like non-binary love scenes that I've written, just to have you like people of all chosen genders go the fuck now.
Oh, wow. Okay, so I looked at this, what Carrie said. Yes, Discovery of Witches audiobook is available on my Libby app, but you were saying stuff about genders at the same time, so my brain said Discovery of Genders,
uh,
and that is your next book title.
Yeah. I actually feel like that could be a really fun follow up to the fantasy series that I'm working on, because it's going to end in a way that it ends, and I mean the next book could literally be called A Discovery of Genders. Yeah, that yeah.
So the topic we were going to speak about, and I'm actually also going to say hello to Jenna, who has come in, and Adrian, who has stopped by to give a like. Because we were bringing up uh, the oh wow, I can't word now.
fat girls in fiction
Oh yeah,
Yes,
Fat Girls in Fiction. Woo!
and inclusivity in general, I'm assuming.
yes, inclusivity in general. Um, just how they were saying that that's something that they don't see, and the fact that um, it's coming around that all of these groups that didn't see themselves and stuff are starting to have more of a voice through indie publishing because they can actually get their own stories out there.
It's awesome.
Well,
Um,
I feel like in my little corner of the world, so we've definitely had a lot more big girls. But like the issue I'm seeing now is that like there are some authors who only write that, or like it will be shifter romance, and like if the shifters are wolves, then they're going for the like, the like take charge power women, and if the shifters are bears, they're looking for the softer squishier women. And then at that point I feel like you're just fetishizing everybody,
Hmm.
um as opposed to like just some are big and some are little and some are tall and some are short, and it doesn't really matter. And then like I also think there's kind of a point where like it gets a bit ridiculous trying to match that, because like it will be a character where like it just doesn't make any sense that that's their body type, like because of what their lifestyle is. Like you're a track runner, but you're a curvy girl, and like that's not usually what happens when you have that kind of a lifestyle. So I like that there's a lot more of that particular character set, but I feel like we've reached a point with that particular character set that we need to be smarter about when we use it, and not just like throw it in because that's either our niche, or that we got to make sure we cover all the bases, so this is the time for that character.
okay, I'm gonna talk about myself for a moment. My cowboy romance series that I'm working on, I decided that each one is going to focus on something inclusive and it's going to heavily focus on that thing.
Mhm.
So the first one is interracial, the next one is lesbian, the next one is the main female character is a food critic and she's plus size. Then it's gay, and then the last one is going to be disability.
Mhm.
And I'm just excited to work on the third one because I myself am a fat person. So it's gonna be cool to like explore that for myself.
Um, One of the points I wanted to bring up, though, is that, we're getting our stories out there, but it's taking so long. Um, and a lot of that is in the trad pub world. And I know, some of that is out of their control, but some of it is, there are some of them that are doing it deliberately, but a lot of them is just because it's all about money.
Yes.
Yeah.
And our stories don't sell to the 25 to 50-year-old white woman.
Unless
Yeah.
you're writing gay fiction, MLM sells really well to that market. That's like most of my like one fantasy series audience. I found this out at a convention. I was quite surprised that like the gay audience that I thought was going to show up to the panel was a bunch of middle-aged housewives who all wanted to talk to me about their drag names. And
Are
that
you
was
say are
fun.
you saying MLM sells well to the MLM crowd?
Yes.
I'm just saying the biggest thing for me though is kind of the self-criticism that comes into doing this, because when I was working on the characters for the epic fantasy series that I'm working on right now, I realized that my non-binary character and my ace character are not human. And I started really struggling with that because that's so common, the trope, right? Of we're going to introduce these other things, but they're going to be non-human actors. And then I had a moment of, idiot, you have 4 POV characters, only one of them is human. Like, are you going to make that one human the token I have everything? Hi, I'm all the differences. Hi. Like,
Yeah.
what am I going to do with that? Because of the nature of the story. And I went into a weird, like, month-long spiral of, am I betraying my own ideals and my community by not having these characters be human? And I obviously got over it because everybody loves the murder radish, so she stays. But um,
Oh, CB asked a question. Can I be a pain in the butt and ask what MLM is? Well, I just used two different MLMs in the same sentence. One is males loving males, which is it's just a shorthand for gay romance. Um, and the other is multi-level marketing, which is, pyramid schemes and shit. But I use both of them in the same sentence.
It's primarily middle-aged white women, straight white women that like male
Both.
love male romance, and that also use MLM marketing companies like Sensi and Beachbody and all that kind of jazz. So
Yeah.
if you didn't know those two details beforehand, you probably wouldn't have gotten that joke.
But I do want to scroll way back to when we were first going in there, because Nikki added something very pertinent to this conversation. Why are there no books with disabled, specifically in wheelchairs, strong characters? I enjoy hearing about realistic stories about the struggles, but also can't create a story that woes me. My life's or But also don't create a story that woes me. My life sucks and then something bad happens to them. Ugh, so annoying. Like, excuse me, being disabled doesn't entirely suck, thank you. Um
So, oh, go ahead.
oh no, what were you gonna say?
Well, so for this one, I think that the wheelchair bound is a very unique issue that for like anybody, I feel like that is absolutely, of all of the different like minorities that I could possibly write, whether it's like another disability or sexual orientation or gender, whatever demographic it happens to be, I think that wheelchair bound is the absolutely the most difficult one that I could visualize what my life would be like if I was in that scenario. I think it's a lot. So like you asked why there's not more realistic representation of it, and I don't think that I would be able to realistically depict it. Just because there are so many different elements that go into it, and like the overwhelming amount of research that would also need to be done just to like start in on that. So I think, like, I feel like I could do other disabilities, other physical disabilities. I could do like missing a limb or missing a sense. I feel like I could more comfortably imagine what that life would be than I could somebody who's wheelchair bound.
It's also
Uh,
tricky when you're doing a fantasy series.
Yes.
This is something I've thought about a lot because, again, the character of Omerith in the book I'm working on lost his legs to a disease and is, well, I found ways for him to be able to move around in a fantasy setting because and that became a big problem because being wheelchair bound in a cobblestone city, when the monsters attack, he would die. I mean, it would. It was hard for me to get around this idea of him having to roll himself through the city. So I found ways that hopefully will work to get him through and to get him around. And I relied a lot on my own experiences because I have been wheelchair bound several times throughout my life because of various ailments and problems, and the fact that I'm not supposed to walk at all. But um, yeah, it can be in genre fiction. It gets really hard because the instinct of most able-bodied writers is to have the magic or the tech fix whatever it is that's wrong, that is quote unquote wrong. So we can have a blind character in Star Trek, but of course, Geordi has a visor that gives him actually better sight than all of the other people that are there. So the disability is actually this almost superpower. And a lot of the discussion that's going on now about writing these things realistically gives you a lot of food for thought on how do you actually handle this when there could be a technological or a magical solution to the to that in the story. And I avoid writing historical fiction for a lot of reasons, but it would be easier to do in a contemporary or historical story.
And yeah,
But
once you get to the point of having that, like, well, I can fix this with technology, are you even telling that story anymore? Or like you said, have you literally just given a character a superpower as opposed to a disability?
Hmm. Um, I know that Dungeons and Dragons, the role playing game, is has been doing some extensive work on that with like battle wheelchairs and stuff.
yep,
Um, but looking at it from the way you guys have been talking, it is more of the um, it's more mechanized and you know there it is almost a superpower.
yeah,
I'm trying
And
to
I
think
certainly don't
about.
think that was
Oh,
the point when they did Jordy. Like, I don't think that was their intention at all.
oh
And
yeah,
they did want to be inclusive with him.
yep.
Like, absolutely no hating on Star Trek at all.
Hmm.
But he doesn't actually have the struggles that a blind person would have.
And they did use it as a plot point in some episodes.
They did,
Some of
where he
the
lost his
anti,
visor.
yeah, And
Yep.
also some of the anti-eugenics episodes that isn't it funny how we could
Yeah.
save your planet but only through technology that was invented for a blind man that never would have been born if you had your way. You know, there
Yep.
are some interesting storylines that they found there. It's just trying to, I don't know how to say this that's right, but to honor the disability and show the struggles of somebody who has that, and yet make it work within especially a fantasy or a sci-fi setting. It becomes really difficult. It's actually one of the reasons why we never got a second Galaxy Quest movie, because one of the actors was in a car wreck and broke his spine and is in a wheelchair now. And the writers had a really hard time of, well, why didn't they just take him to the ship and have the ship fix it? Right? The level of technology that they were talking about that the space aliens had, they would have been able to just heal his spine and he would be fine. But of course, we on Earth do not have this ability, and we don't want to recast this character or write him out of the show. So what do we do with that? And it's when magic and technology are a miracle cure-all, which they often are in a lot of sci-fi and fantasy settings, then anything that an able-bodied person would consider a malady, they will then find a way to to fix and change. And it's kind of like one of the big fights that I had with a lot of fans of Harry Potter that were like, "Oh, wouldn't it be great if we lived in this world and as a trans person we could just take Polyjuice potion?" And I'm just like, "No, that makes me into someone else. That's not actually like." I get what you're trying to say. Like, I get the idea that you're going for. You could have your ideal body, but it would be someone else's body. It wouldn't be my body. And so sometimes the magic can even really distort and misinterpret the actual thing that you're trying to be inclusive of.
I am trying to think about disabilities that I've written about, and it's like in the genres that I work with, it would be very difficult for me to include wheelchair bound people. Like, one is fantasy, which in and of itself it's difficult to do, especially if you write in a world where like there's healing magic, because if there's healing magic, then there's really no reason for somebody to have a disability in that world, because like, oh, I'm severely injured but I can be healed by this healing magic or something like that, which, like, yeah, we don't have that in this world. And so it makes me feel bad when I'm writing. Like, I have a series I'm working on with my best friend, and there is super high tech stuff, and there's also one character who created a pharmaceutical drug that can like let people grow back limbs, because like he used blood from a magical race that like heals really really rapidly, and was able to like do the thing. And his partner had a prosthetic arm in the beginning of the story, and at the end they grew back their arm because of the drug that the other person created. And then it made me feel bad afterwards. I was like, yeah, but that's like, isn't that like healing something, just magical healing? But then I was like, it works with the context of literally the entire story though, so I don't, it makes me feel bad. But I don't, like, is that something that I should unwrite, kind of a situation?
I've been in that scenario before as well, and it stresses me out too. Like, I don't want anybody to read this and think, oh, I think it, I feel like if you lose a limb, you should just be able to grow back a limb. And like, look how much better their life is than yours because they were able to grow back that limb. And like, that's not at all what I'm trying to do. But yeah, it's hard when you are crafting a world that has the technology to do it. Like, it's hard to avoid doing it.
Let's be honest. A lot of fantasy and sci-fi borders on or is outright power fantasy. So the question is, what is the power fantasy that you are wanting to tell? So like with Omrith, one of the ways that I went with him is I had a friend growing up who was born without legs. And he was the single most athletic person I have ever met in my life. And a lot of that came from he had to learn to use his arms to get around. And so, I mean, he could he got around better than I did as a child. You know what I'm saying? Like before
Mhm.
I had all of my injuries and stuff because of that. And so he in my mind was always this almost superhero, and it wasn't because of an intervention. It was because he developed other skills that I never would have thought of. Like I never would have thought to use my arms the way he did to get around and to move around and to get to places. Watching him go and get up into counters and stuff. I mean, I mean, he would jump up on the count. He would use his arms to pull himself up on the counter and get into the high shelves. I mean, he was bound and determined that nothing was going to hold him back. And so I'm trying to take people like him into mind for this fantasy character because, he's somebody who made the best out of what he was dealt, what he was born with. And while he actually had prosthetic legs, because he had enough, there was enough material there that he didn't have legs beneath the knee. So he did have prosthetic legs and he could get around on them, but he actually found them to be more limiting than what he could do without them. And so he just didn't wear them. That was just not who he was.
And I feel like that is a really good way to be able to include a character like that in a story where it wouldn't make sense otherwise. Because, like, I could see, and again, this part of that is the issue that it is hard for me to just visualize having that sort of a life. But certainly, if somebody is born that way, whatever way it is,
Hmm.
whether their legs don't work, or they don't have legs, or they are blind, or they are deaf, I could see being a little bit older in life and being given the option of, like, hey, we can fix this issue, and that person saying, actually, like, this is what I know, and I don't know that I would want this issue to be fixed because this is the way that I have functioned, and I am fine functioning this way.
Well, it's also because, I mean, look at it just from the LGBT point of view. Um, we've gotten to a point in our lives, most of us, that most of us that have reached the middle of what the human lifespan is supposed to be. Um, if we were presented with the option of being straight, it's like I don't know how to do that. I don't want that. And I mean, I think for a lot of people with disabilities that have gotten to a point where that's how they interact with the world, that's what they know.
Mhm.
They don't, it, magical cure is not what they want. They just want people to not be dicks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, like, I don't know about, being wheelchair bound, but I feel like if I had spent my entire life being blind, like, I don't know that I would actually, when I was older, want to get sight. Like, I don't know that I would be worried that I wouldn't be able to handle it, that, like, it would be an overwhelming thing, and, like, it would just be like something that I don't actually want to experience anymore.
Hmm.
I mean, this just makes me think of there was one of the memes that was in OT's video today because he was going through r/NB, and it was like, imagine you're reading the fantasy book, and the villain stands up and says, "No man of woman born can slay me," and our AMAB character kills him, and then thinks, "Oh, I I killed him." Dysphoria was the real villain the whole time. Because there's so many interesting, and I heard that and I was just like, how is that not a fantasy epic? How have I never read that story? Like, I kind of want that twist on Arwen. Like, yes, like,
But another
because
point,
there's so many interesting ways that you could take it that have been unexplored, and that's where I think we're going to find a lot of freshness in fiction is people applying their experience in ways that we have not seen because of
hmm
the straight, cisgendered, white,
Yeah.
heteronormative, able-bodied. non-neurodivergent world that has dominated literature for so long.
Um, the other thing I want to bring up is that um, in these worlds, these fantasy, sci-fi type worlds where things can get cured like that. Um, one thing that is very prevalent in both of those genres is telling the same story through analogy. Um, so let's say you're in a magical world where, birth defects or diseases or missing parts can be cured magically. There are things like curses to replace them, magical maladies
And
that
sacrifices. Like right
Mhm,
now, because I'm watching Witcher, there's the whole thing about Yennefer losing her fertility in
Mhm.
exchange for having her spine fixed.
mhm.
And then regretting it later. So you
And
could
then
have a
now she's
character
on a
like that.
quest to find a way to fix that because she wants to
Mhm.
have kids.
Yeah. Which I actually hated that plot line, but that's okay.
I was just thinking about another dynamic I was able to do because of the amputee that became a non-amputee. I have another character that he interacts with that is also an amputee that chose to. So this is a character who was a pirate, and she chose to cut off her hand to save the person that she loved. And when the cure to grow her hand back was offered, she's like, no. And they're like, what? Why? She's like, because I chose to do this to myself for a reason, and I no longer have this person in my life, and I would like to remember them.
Mhm.
So I'm going to choose to keep the hook that he made me instead because yeah. And so then she also judges the other guy. She's like you lost your arm and you like you had this really cool prosthetic arm that could like do cool stuff because he had like a robot arm like Winter Soldier, and you chose to give that up for just a regular arm. Like the fuck, dude. And like they have this cool dynamic that goes back and forth. But I don't know. I have an amputee that cured themselves, and an amputee that refuses to, and I think it was cool for their conversations that they have with each other about it.
I just I'm stuck on what CB was saying, the the attitude that makes me really really hulky is when people clearly when I'm clearly struggling with my coordination and no one even bothers to think to ask me if I need help. Yeah, this is the weird place that we are because I've noticed back in the before time when we went out to places and there were like strangers around us, there would be times when I would have my cane because I have to walk with a cane or I fall down, where I was either the old man that everyone treated like I was made out of glass and needed to make sure that I made it to where I was. And then the weirdest part was like when I was actually struggling and like my back would give out and I didn't know how I was going to make it to somewhere where I would sit and not fall. Nobody cared. And like all the people that were treating me like glass were gone and not just like looking the other way like, oh, that looks like pain. I'm not going to look at that.
You
And
know, it is a weird dynamic though, because on the one hand, like I will see somebody who looks like they need help, but on the other hand, if I don't know them, I worry that I will offend them by offering that. Like I
Maybe they
have
don't
like,
actually.
what was that?
Like maybe they don't actually need help, and then they get offended that you're like,
Right,
"Oh, you need
right.
help."
And this is just like they just happen to have like a an abnormal body motion that makes them look like they're struggling, or that they are very, like independence is extremely, extremely highly valued for them, and like they're going to struggle, but they don't want anybody to help. And like I've certainly like with my job had customers that like yelled at me for offering to help them. So it sucks. It sucks because like even the people whose instinct is to help kind of get like, I don't know if I should. I don't want to be rude.
see, this is where we are in this weird transitional state that we are in as a culture where we have not developed a common etiquette
Yeah.
and cultural norms on how to have this conversation without just sounding condescending.
Yes.
Because in the situations I'm talking about, when I say like treated me like I was made out of glass, like, would you like me to go do your shopping for you? Like, no, I'm at a convention. I don't know what's on the tables. That's half the fun of walking through a dealer's at a convention. I can't tell you, go find me the thing. I want to hunt and see if there's anything there. Like, I don't even understand how that's a proper question in that situation, right? But at other times when, like, literally you can't stand, there's that I think it's when people can see the struggle. It reminds me of that scene in CB will probably not appreciate this reference, but in Civil War, where Black Widow grabs Steve Rogers and says, "Kiss me," because emotion makes people uncomfortable, right? Intimacy makes people uncomfortable. And there really is nothing more intimate than helping someone who is suffering, than helping somebody who is in pain. And that basic discomfort does cause people to look away
Hmm.
because it feels like such an intimate thing to aid someone through their suffering. And I think that's what causes that dynamic. It's not that people don't, a lot of times it's not that people don't care, it's that they're struggling with their own discomfort of, should I be involving myself in the life of someone that I don't
Yes.
know how much of a thing I might be bringing upon myself, and whether that's a fair thought for people to have or not, because we are a culture that has descended from the British, who are so blessedly allergic to intimacy in any way, shape, or form. We we still have that as part of our culture as well. That English stiff upper lip of just like, oh no, you be over there, I'll be over there. What? Just it's still a problem that we have to get through. And this is what writing is for. Is in our stories we start developing these norms. We start developing, the more people put their pronouns on their social media profiles and in their names, and when they introduce themselves, whether they're cisgender or not, as hello, I am blah blah blah, my pronouns are, blah blah, then it normalizes it to the point where it doesn't seem strange when somebody does that. It becomes just a cultural norm. And it can't be dictated on high, it has to be exhibited. And we do that through story. That's why there are so many coming out stories, because you have to teach parents and school kids and every class of people, well, how do you react when someone comes up to you and says, I may not be that person that you have thought I was in your mind this entire time? Because we like to believe that we are 100% right in the way we judge other people.
Hmm.
And so that's why we have those coming out narratives, because it's showing, oh, here's how you react when somebody says, I am not the person you thought I was. It's teaching those norms, it's teaching that etiquette. And we just need more of that in fiction to make it more culturally acceptable in the ways that we should actually do that.
I don't know. For me, when I focus on disability in my fiction, I focus more on psychological disabilities because
Hmm.
that's more like what I deal with myself. So the main character in my main series suffers from PTSD from some traumatic events that happened at the very beginning of the book. And I exhibit the PTSD that she has the same way that I experience it because that's what I'm familiar with. And then, like, I don't have a lot of other stuff. Like, if I don't experience a thing, I tend to not include it until later when I'm more familiar with the thing. So a lot of my first drafts are very like white people and like able-bodied, and then later I tend to add more because I'm like, okay, I've written the book. It needs this thing. Now I got to research this thing to add it to the book. So I don't know if a lot of other people work that way, where I write myself and then I fix it.
I do like I'm neurodivergent, so I write a lot of neurodivergent characters. Um, yeah, I do. I don't know. I do write a lot of diversity. I have a lot of you know, I do a lot of it. I don't know that I have written a wheelchair bound character, but never as a main character.
The character I'm writing right now is black, gay, uh, can barely see without super thick glasses, um, has severe ADHD and a learning disability.
You know what's funny is I've never written a character that is visually impaired but not like fully blind. I've never thought to write a character who needs glasses.
You know what?
um,
I don't have any characters that need glasses either, and I wear glasses.
I have absolutely nothing against people who need glasses, but I don't need glasses, and it's just not something that
It's
I
not
even
something
think
it
about.
isn't something people think about when they're writing. It's that, there's a lot of people that are legally blind that can see with glasses.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it's not well, but it's
Yeah, and I have plenty of friends who are legally blind but
Right.
can see with glasses. I have some friends with terrible, terrible vision. And I never think, unless they're, blind to the point where, the glasses aren't going to correct it, that they, I've had characters who either can only see like broad strokes of things or just completely no vision at all. But yeah, I've never written a 2200 character and I don't know why. Of all of the things that I've written, I don't know why that's not one that I ever think to. I don't even have like I actually like the aesthetic of glasses and I never think to include
I
it.
wear glasses. Like, I can't drive without these because if it's more than like 5 feet away from me, it starts to get blurry. And I've never written a character who wears glasses. I can't think of a single time I've written a character who needs to wear glasses.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
I wear glasses myself, so what the heck?
also it's an older reference now, but for wheelchair bound characters who are realistic and well portrayed. Macaulay Culkin in Saved, an amazing job with that. They did such a good job with that character. But where like he is definitely disabled by being wheelchair bound, but he is also absolutely a real character and just he did a phenomenal job acting it, and they did a phenomenal job writing that character. That's Saved is it's got to be early 2000s. It is about growing up in um a Christian fundamentalist church, and then the main character gets pregnant, trying to save her gay boyfriend from going to gay hell. But Macaulay Culkin is amazing in it.
Very much so.
Yeah,
at that, we should probably do our second
we
sprint.
should. We're so bad.
Well, it's
This
a
is
This
good topic.
conversation is so good.
it is a good conversation.
Yeah.
I do want to pretend like it's a sprint stream and have at least two. So I'm going to put in the jellyfish timer. We don't need share tab audio. And we will sprint in 3, 2, 1, go. All right. Sprint is over.
Thank you for not making an obnoxious beeping sound that time.
What, you mean like beepity 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 beepity?
Yes.
You
Yes,
put
that's
that on
exactly
all
what
of us.
I did, but we were already like getting our attention back because we'd already spoken, so like we were all braced for it this time.
I did want to bring up something that I recalled about stories with disabilities, involving people with disabilities, and that is 99.9% of the ones out there. It's almost a requirement for them to be inspirational.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Um, and again, that was part of why I really liked Macaulay Culkin in Save because he wasn't that character either. He was just a guy trying to live his life with his psycho sister and his disability. And
I
like
think Psycho Sister's being really nice to her.
that's fair. You threw a Bible at me.
Isn't that called inspiration porn or something? Yeah,
Yeah.
kind of. But and the thing is, like we were talking about, that 18 to 50-year-old white woman, that's how they want. That's what they'll eat up. It's the
Yeah.
only way they will take in a disability is, you know.
If it's an inspirational story that makes you want to persevere through the horrible tragedy that happened to you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right, so let me tell you on my sprint. First of all, I finished that episode of Witcher, and just interestingly, considering the topic at hand, there was a wheelchair-bound character in this episode of The Witcher.
Oh.
It was, I will say, that very hackneyed academic character was wheelchair-bound. Yeah. So like that was, it was what it was. But anyways, so like I hopped
We
on
haven't brought this
Goodreads.
out in the show much, but all the Witchers are secret nerds.
That's fair.
I mean, they have to know a lot
I'm
about the
really
stuff.
enjoying this
So.
season. But so I hop on Goodreads because I am a masochist, and like right off the bat in the like feed that pops up when you go to Goodreads, the first thing listed is somebody has rated Midsummer Night's Dream 3 stars, and I'm just really baffled by like rating Shakespeare at all, I guess. Like it is just a real weird thing to me that
That is a
anybody.
bizarre flex.
Right. And literally their review was like read for class or something like that. But like I don't know. It's just really weird unless you absolutely love or hate that classic story. It's weird to me to rate classic stories like that. But then what I was going there for was to stock my rating because again, I'm a masochist. And I saw that I have a brand new review for one of my books, and the review was like, great book, really enjoyed it, these characters were fun, looking forward to the rest of the series, 3 stars. And I was like, can you not read the rest of the series actually? But then because I am also a Goodreads stalker, I pulled up their profile, and it looks like based on like all of their other reviews that they just hit the wrong rating because like everything else that had 3 stars was like, hey, I had a problem with this story for this reason. It was okay, but there was this problem. And so I feel like they just hit the wrong thing, and like there's nothing I can do about it, right? Because like you absolutely cannot talk to readers on Goodreads. It is like it is death to do that. So like now I'm just praying that she does read the rest of the series and gives good stars to the other ones.
Well, The thing about star ratings, it really sucks, especially when you're limited to 5, is that everybody's rating system is individual to themselves. So, like, there's no way for the ratings to actually be consistent because they don't mean the same thing for other people. So,
Mhm.
like, for me, star rating is good. It was a solid book. I enjoyed it. It wasn't the best thing ever written. It didn't, like, make me think about it for days and days and days, but it was good and I enjoyed it and I'll read more books by this person. 5 stars is like, it's the best thing I've ever read. I love it. And 1 star is like, I wish I could unread it. Like, it was that bad. So, like, 3 stars for me is a good rating, but other people, 3 stars is not a good rating. And
And in
so
my
it's like,
genre, if you have less than 4 stars on a book, like you're screwed.
Yeah.
So it yeah, it's weird. And Goodreads certainly, I don't know, things are weird on Goodreads in comparison to Amazon. People rate higher on Amazon. Like I know people who will absolutely say, "Oh yeah, I'll give it 5 stars on Amazon, but it's only like 3 stars on Goodreads." Like what is happening
that's
here?
kind of weird to give things different ratings on different platforms.
Yeah.
If I give something a rating, I'll rate it the same on both places.
Yeah.
My relation to Goodreads is very simple. I have not unsubscribed to their email notifications that something happened, and I never read them. But I'm still technically involved because I know something happened regarding me and Goodreads because I saw the Goodreads email before I deleted it. I saw that it existed. I feel like that's the healthiest relationship a writer can have with
Yeah,
Goodreads.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. I have a very unhealthy relationship with it, but that's okay.
Okay. I see Nicole's comment, and I would like to say that the character of mine that fixed his prosthetic and like grew back his arm, the actual story itself had nothing to do with the fact that he only had one arm. He just only had one arm. Like, the story was a murder mystery and he's a detective and he was investigating the murders, but had nothing to do with his disability whatsoever at all. Like, it was just like a side thing. And so I I hope that like is more like, if I should continue to write like that where the characters with disabilities, like, it's not about their disability, it just they just have happen to have one.
I mean, taking this from my queer perspective, I hate when the queer character in a book is just there to be the queer character in the book. Like, my straight white female protagonist needs somebody to give her makeup advice and help her go shopping. Let's give her a pet gay. You know, like, mm.
Well, that the character that I'm talking about is also bisexual, and the romance in the book is him and uh my favorite character I've ever created that's a gay Italian scientist. So
So I like it when they have something other to do than just be that thing that should not necessarily define them.
mhm.
You don't want the pocket gay?
Well, I mean, I would love to have a pocket gay because it gets lonely sometimes around the house, but you know, Gangels are just like I'm done. I'm done with the Gangel. I am so done with the Gangel. Just like I'm done with the fruit flies in a lot of the queer fiction that I read. Like, sweetie, you should not just have a straight white female friend because they're always a straight white female friend, just so that you have someone to be sassy about men with. Like, there are
Yes.
more reasons to know people than just to have that one female friend to be like, aren't men the worst? Like, if that's all your relationship is, you don't really have a relationship. Like, do you know anything about what's going on in her life? I mean, at all? Like, one thing. What's her last name? Just tell me. What is her last name?
I'm distracted because all I can hear in the background over here is Noelle laughing hysterically upstairs with Jordan. So I don't know what they're doing, but she's really enjoying herself.
Because every time I see one of those characters, I just hear Sam Rockwell in the back of my head going, "Oh no, I'm crewman number 5. I don't have a last name. What is my last name?" Like, I just hear that Galaxy Quest moment because, like, yeah, you're wallpaper. You're just there to tick a box and no. No.
Yeah.
Nikki says, I mean, I'm on both sides. I love hearing about the inspirational story about a disabled person, but I also love hearing about here's my day to day life.
Well, see, that's
I think that there is just a balance that you have to get where, like, there's nothing wrong with writing that inspirational story, but like you shouldn't be pulling the disabled character out of your pocket to write an inspirational story for them and then shoving them back in your pocket.
Mm-hmm.
You should have a balance, and like certainly your character's entire identity should not be their disability or whatever other, whatever it happens to be that makes them different. That should not be their entire personality. And, even if the story is inspirational, it should still be somebody with an actual life.
Are you saying that the commenter that I made an entire video to rebut this week was wrong? That one thing isn't my entire personality? What?
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Well, Jennifer, I appreciate your comment. You definitely should continue writing like that. Thank you. I will.
See, the I'm the disability, the ADHD and dyslexia that the main character of the Great Machine has. It's there to demonstrate how fucked up the system is. Um, Notedly, the family starts out in a wealthier environment, and he gets all the help in the world. Like, oh, they bend over backwards to make sure that he is able to keep up with everything. But as soon as they fall out of that money, the system is like, you're on your own.
Mhm. And that's an actual problem that a lot of people
Yeah.
go through. Yeah.
I think the biggest problem with all of this, and you knew you couldn't get through a discussion with me without me saying the following sentence. The biggest problem with this is market capitalism, because if you're trying to make a living in the writing market, slice of life fiction doesn't often perform that well. So that's where we tend to get more inspirational stories and power fantasies, because that's what people pay
Yeah.
for. And that's why I like that there are a lot of, please don't think this is a pejorative term, but hobbyist writers who aren't looking to make a living from their text, because they can tell those stories, they can put them out into the universe, and there are ways to do that now that did
Mhm.
not exist previously. But it gets really, really difficult when you're trying to actually support your business and or your life off of what you're writing, not bear those restrictions that the market places upon you.
I want to sit on this.
That is some pretty hair.
Do you like your pink hair? Thank you. She said thank you, just really quietly because she's shy.
That hard.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Look, Devin said hi. Say hi, Devin. Hi, Devin.
Oh yeah, and there was another part of this whole thing, and you kind of touched on that a little bit, the capitalism side, and that's imagine you've written this amazing book, this amazing story about someone with the absolute. You're telling the story perfectly about someone with a disability, or someone from who's not cis straight white whatever, um and you put it in, and or you submit it, and the agent's like, oh yeah, this is wonderful, but we've already sold this one this year.
Mm-hmm.
This
Really,
is
you cannot rely on trad for any of this stuff.
Yeah,
And that is just
Yep.
the reality of the situation. Like,
that
it's
is the
not even
problem.
worth going into that far because trad decides for themselves what the market is, and if they don't want to put something out there, they don't put it out there, and then they say, well, look, it doesn't sell. Look, we haven't sold any books that have disabled characters or whatever, so disabled characters don't sell. And when you say, well, that's because you didn't have any books with disabled characters, they're like, right, because it doesn't sell. And they decide for themselves. And there's this will never happen if we rely on the trad to get it there.
Yep.
I'm also kind of glad that they're not picking up on a lot of this in some ways, because then it would just be another one of the flavor of the month genres that they pick up as a prestige thing that will be watered down and just
Yep.
completely changed from what it was intended to be, or what people who actually want to read it want to read in it, because it would become a fad. Because that's the only way a lot of these types of stories make it into the mainstream. And I'm looking at all of the AIDS books that came out.
Yep. Oh, you also have the issue of once they get it, like they have to be either 0 or 100, right? So
Mhm.
like somebody like I will never be the portrayal of OCD, even though I am like right middle of the road. I've got like, I check all of the boxes. I am exactly the stereotypical person with moderate OCD. I will never be the one that's portrayed because I don't have those like bells and whistles, and my life isn't completely wrecked by it. And the way that I have managed it isn't the like glamorous way to manage it. And so I feel like if you were getting into disabilities, since that is what our topic has kind of like gotten into, I feel like if you're going to have a disabled character, it's not going to be somebody who is like otherwise able-bodied but can't, like their legs don't function for whatever reason. It's going to be somebody that has like massive medical issues, they're about to die, or it's the like triathlete in the Special Olympics, and you're not going to have just a normal person go into the office in a wheelchair.
Okay, so the massive medical thing, they about to die thing, made me think of Me Before You. Jordan rented that or bought that movie on Google for me to watch for like a date night when it first came out because I thought it looked good and I like Emilia Clarke. And he hated it because after the movie was over, he's like, so they had this whole love story inspiring thing about this guy who's disabled and then he kills himself at the end. Like, what the fuck was the point of that?
Oh, that's rough.
Well, he doesn't like kill himself. He goes to like those, wellness places in Switzerland and kind of just does like doctor assisted suicide type situation.
In the early 2000s, there were actually a lot of gay romances that were being made by some of the just on the inside of the outside companies that, oh, beautiful romance, isn't it wonderful? Oh, one of them just deaded themselves.
Yeah,
that's for the romance that is socially acceptable romance.
Yep.
The mainstream romance where like you can have a romance but somebody's got to die at the end.
Which is one of the reasons why I hated Brokeback Mountain, because I was so tired of that trope before that movie.
And there is nothing wrong with the like story of people suffering from I'm blanking on the term, but an illness that is going to kill you. Like, I don't see anything wrong with that story. It's when that is the only story that's being told. Why am I forgetting that's a very basic term? But like, you have the movies about people in the cancer ward who fall in love and then they both end up dying. Terminal illness, thank you. Just a blanking on that word. But like, it's totally fine to tell those stories. Like, they are stories that should be told. But like, that shouldn't be the only type, and that's the only type that trad is ever going to tell.
It just, that whole movie afterwards when Jordan said that, it upset me too, because it's like the whole thing is that like he's this guy who was like super outdoorsy and he felt like his whole life was over when he became a quadriplegic, right? And it's the neck down. Yeah, it's neck down quadriplegic.
Neck down is
And
quadriplegic.
then, like, the whole story is like his mom is begging for him to just, just live, like you'll be fine. We can get you in therapy. Like we'll do whatever we need to do, but just don't, just try to live your life anyways. And she hires the main character girl to take care of him. And then at the end of the movie, he's like, I gave you a year like I promised. I'm done now. And then he goes and kills himself. And it's like,
That's terrible.
it's like your mom is begging you to just live and be okay, and she hires this person to take care of you that she thinks is gonna do a really good job and make you want to live again. And they have this beautiful romance, and it seems like it worked, and then it didn't. And it's like,
All I'm hearing is all the reasons I don't watch Russian movies.
and then at the end, because it was a rich guy, at the end he like kills himself, and then he leaves her a bunch of money for her to go like travel and do whatever. And it's like, so the point of it was that she makes this rich disabled guy fall in love with her. He kills himself and gives her a bunch of money. Like,
Well, I mean, profit incentive, what the world really is about.
and it's like the whole thing is like his attitude the whole time is that, oh, my life is over now that I'm quadriplegic. I can't do anything. I'm just stuck in this chair. But you're not. That's just because.
Yeah, I don't even understand the point of telling a story like that if that's how it's going to end.
That's
They
just
don't
telling
advertise it in
people
the-
that they're better off dead than disabled.
Yeah. And like I am absolutely not somebody who thinks that every single story needs to have a message and that you can write the story that you want to tell just because it's not, not telling a good message. But like, I just don't even see why anybody would want to tell that story.
I thought I would enjoy it because the death part was not advertised.
Yeah.
So I thought it was going to be a nice romance about this lady who like makes him feel alive again after something tragic happened to him, and that they would live happily ever after. That was not what that movie was about. No.
Yeah, or like even like if it was something where his condition was deteriorating or something, like, there are those tragic stories where like, let's end it now because it's just going to be worse from here. And I get that, but it doesn't sound like that was where it was going. That like
I really
his life, he could still have the life of like any otherwise functional quadriplegic that could still like be a functioning member of society.
I really hate to say it, but this is modern media, mainstream media will always take any of these stories that we're hoping to get out there and turn it into a modern day freak show. I mean, that is the point of it. Look at The Monster Suffer. That is how our culture has to this point decided to cope with the idea of difference. And maybe we will be lucky and see things get to the other side. And you do with some issues see them get to the other side, but there is that I feel personally uncomfortable knowing that this thing exists. Oh, but they're dead, so it's over now, I'm fine. It is a psychological release that allows a mainstream audience to performatively have compassion for a group of people that does not have to extend past the end of the entertainment. So they do not feel obligated by what they saw to actually care about whatever the issue was.
CB says, once upon a time, though, that's what life was like for disabled people, especially over here where we had institutions.
But this is a modern movie, right?
You're muted.
It came out in 2016 or 2017, I think.
Yeah, so I feel like, and it takes place in modern times. Yeah, so that's where, like, I could absolutely see if this took place, even if it took place like 20 years ago, I could understand it more because technology has changed so much. Even 20 years ago, things were a lot different for people that had like really, really bad disabilities like that. But like, that's not, and so, yeah, it wasn't that long ago that like, that really was your life. but that's not it anymore. And there's no value in telling that story from like the current, like if it is a modern story, there's no, like, it just doesn't make any sense.
Okay, so the thing for the movie is the last part. It says Will's cynical outlook starts to change when Louisa shows him that life is worth living. As their bond deepens, their lives and hearts change in ways neither could have imagined. There's nothing talking about how the fact that he freaking kills himself at the end of the movie. Like,
But weren't you surprised though?
it's based off a book
That's
too by
twist.
Jojo Moyes. Like, I just
I mean,
Yeah.
I hate to be irreverent about it, but it's one of those things where I don't want to give a spoiler for one of my favorite books, even though it's probably like 60 years old now. But the twist end to Tales of the City is in some ways uncomfortably transphobic, and at the same time one of the most affirming things I have ever read, because I it's one of the books I go back and reread regularly because I just love it so much. And so some things, when they're an artifact of the time when they were written, because I believe most of that was written in the 60s, I want to say 60s, early 70s is when that book was written, I can make allowances for older media that tried, right?
Yeah.
You could see it trying, and you could see the good faith in the in it, really wanting to say the right thing. When it comes to more modern media, it's just like, there are entire firms that you can hire that will provide you with sensitivity advisors, right? Like
Yes.
this is an entire field of business. Like, you could have brought somebody in
And for
to
that
help you.
movie, I cannot imagine that a movie like that they made without any sort of, not necessarily sensitivity, but like certainly medical experts and like, people who are involved in this, their professions involve quadriplegic people, or they are themselves quadriplegic. Like, there had to be people who are in this community who were involved with the making of this movie.
it's
That
also based off of a novel that was like a best-selling novel or something like that. Jojo Moyes is the author. But okay, a little rabbit hole I went down. It only has 54% on Rotten Tomatoes for critic score, and it has 73% for audience score. But a lot of the reviews, like I scrolled down, and one of the critics said, "Solid performances don't outbalance the problematic parts of this movie," which were many. Like,
See,
so I wonder if the ratings were based on people who love the book and were like, okay, I am also seeing this movie now. But now I'm looking up this book. It's called Me Before You.
yeah.
But
I'm
Oh,
thinking,
it's a series. Okay, I'm kind of wondering if it doesn't end the same way because it's a series of books.
Well, it's Me Before You, and then the second book is Me After You. So
Oh, so the story is about her and like moving on after his death, I'm guessing then.
but here's what I want to say. Um, it falls in line. I think it falls in line with what Charlie was saying, though, about the media, because I would bet you that the writer writing this story was not trying to frame it as an inspirational, like, love story.
but
And
just a slice of life thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
and something that was a tragedy to start out with, and the media picks it up and they're just like, we're gonna shape this, make people think it's beautiful, and throw the actual ending from the book in as a twist to wow people.
As opposed to a preface to the next book.
like, maybe, I don't know. I haven't read the book. Maybe in the book he doesn't kill himself. Maybe he just
No,
dies.
he absolutely does. I read the synopsis of the
Okay,
second
well
book.
then I don't know, because
But like, yeah, the second book is continuing with like how that death affects her life. So, and that, like, and I don't mean this in in a negative, I mean this in a neutral way, but like in that sense, so like if it's from her perspective, then he is just a plot device then
Yes.
that furthers what her life experience is. And again, I don't mean that to like belittle him in any way, but like the story is about her um having this friendship, this relationship, and then getting, you know, what the impact of what he does then is on her life afterward,
Yeah, but
which makes more sense to me.
Hmm.
I've been thinking about this a lot because adaptation is so much on my mind recently. I don't know why, but watching two of the like titans, actually three now, because with Wheel of Time getting thrown in there, of the sci-fi fantasy world getting adapted for television, getting to see the choices that were made to a either strip the story of all meaning or b to change the problematic nature of the story. That when Asimov wrote Foundation, for example, every character is a cis white male.
Mhm.
Every character in the book is a cis white male, and it doesn't do anything to the story to have it. It doesn't harm the narrative to change that and make it different, and in a lot of ways actually improved the story and made me care about some of the characters, some of the changes they made in a way that I never did when I read the book. And I think this is an obligation that needs to be put on people that are doing adaptations, especially of classics or books with problematic content, that what people love about a story is what they take away from it. You're never going to capture a 200,000 word story in an hour and a half movie. It's never going to happen. You're going to have to cut things, change things, work things around. But I feel like we have created this slavish mentality where it has to be just like the book, that even I really wonder if the filmmakers saw the problematic nature of the story or not. Like, did they see it as a problem, but because that's how the book ended, that's how their movie had to end, because that's the way it was? Or did they think, oh, that's beautiful, look how he makes her life better because it's all about her? Like, I'm so curious on the other side of that, because that is something that they could have possibly done something with in adaptation to make his life have more meaning than just, oh, look at this prop that helps her get on with her life and become a better person.
Mm-hmm. It just, yeah. And I'm glad most of the critic reviews are like, yeah, it's 2016. We shouldn't be using these harmful stereotypes. Like, here's one. Can't we move away from these ridiculous disability as tragedy storylines? One of them just says, I don't approve of this movie. I think it's a bad message to be sending. Agree.
Mm. Also, CB just mentioned Jodi Picoult, and like I find a lot of Jodi Picoult extremely problematic. So we do also just have problematic authors out there, and of course,
Mhm.
we have problematic readers. And Jodi Picoult is, I mean, the people that I know who read Jodi Picoult, obviously not all of them are terrible, but like if somebody tells me that they read Jodi Picoult, I'm like, I'm going to question a little bit your motives in life. And like not like because they're bad books, but just like what people get really excited about in Jodi Picoult books, a lot of those things are like, actually that's not okay. Like what I realize like you're seeing value in this, but like the value you're seeing isn't as good as like the whole colorblind thing where people claim to, not see race when actually you are erasing race then. Like that kind of issue, you get a lot of that with Jodi Picoult stuff. Not race specific, but like other stuff where that's just kind of how it's handled.
I
Yeah.
feel the same way about people that get really excited about Robert Heinlein. I'm like, I have a lot of questions for you. Because as
Mhm.
a writer, like, I really enjoy his style. I like the way that he wrote words. He was extremely xenophobic, very racist, kind of into nationalism. Didn't really think Hitler had the wrong idea about certain things. Um, what about his work do you like?
And it shows in his work.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
it's not subtle. It's not subtle.
Yeah.
So, what about his work do you like? Like, I can understand like some of it, but like, yeah, there are some writers out there that they tell you a lot about the people who are fans of them, which is why I open everything
Yeah.
with, I want to be Robert E. Howard but super gay. Like, that's everything you need to know about me.
I'm looking at the time and how long we've been streaming, and I want to ask Jace, are you okay over there?
Yeah, I'm looking for an opening, but not at the same time.
Just been quiet.
You picked a
And I
good
wasn't sure if
topic
you
for
were like falling
conversation
asleep.
today.
Yeah, it's a really good conversation, and I don't want to end it, but I do need to go to bed.
There's literally a party going on downstairs right now for me. It is
yeah.
our Christmas party tonight.
But yeah, Charlie was talking about the Wheel of Time, and I was thinking about the characters, and I'm like, aside from Rand and Avienda, who pretty much have to be redheads because that's a major plot point, anyone else can be any other fucking thing the casting crew has in mind.
I did see one person online complaining that Nynaeve and Igraine were black, and I'm just like, did you read the book? Like, did you even read the book? They're black in the book. Like,
Are
did
they?
you read the book? Like, what are you complaining about?
That was one thing I liked about the Dune movie, is that a lot of the characters were like cast as black people in the movie, which some people complained about, but honestly in the book they don't really give a lot of physical descriptions of characters unless they're like it's important for some reason, and it almost never says what skin color people have in the book.
Nope.
So it's like, why can't they be black? Because especially because Johnny's described as being black, and like in the book his like wife person is described as being a black woman, and she has 2 kids that are black, and like, so a lot of the Fremen are black. So why are people complaining that a lot of the Fremen in the movie are black? Like,
even with character description, it is very rare that like the skin color of a character matters.
it
Like,
doesn't.
there are certainly times, I mean, there are certainly characters that would like be real weird if that, slave owner was a black guy. Like, obviously I'm going for like the most obtuse example possible, but there are certainly times where it would be weird, but most of the time it doesn't matter. I don't like, you shouldn't care more about that blonde hair, blue eye character being blonde hair, blue eye, as you shouldn't care about that as much as you care about the character being portrayed, how they are like the actual character of that character, how that is portrayed as opposed to their physical characteristics.
Yeah, that brings to mind when Aquaman was being cast, and people were like, but Jason Momoa is not blonde hair, blue eyed. I'm like, Jason Momoa makes way more sense as Aquaman than a blonde hair, blue eyed
totally
person.
Does.
I didn't really see a lot of complaints about Jason Momoa, but I'm seeing a lot of complaints about Halle Bailey or Haley
Ariel.
Yeah,
it is.
Haley Berry. Yep.
It's not Halle Berry. It's someone with a name almost identical but different.
Haley. It's Haley, not Halle. It's Haley something.
That actress.
A lot of people have been complaining about her being Ariel. It's like, honestly, I don't care if Ariel is black in the live action. The only thing I was wondering was if, like, at Disneyland and stuff, are they gonna do both versions, or are they gonna do one or the other?
The only thing that concerns me about that casting is if it is any more like the Hans Christian Andersen story than the Disney version. I will actually be kind of upset about that, because she is a slave in the Hans Christian Andersen story, and her happy ending is 500 years of slavery.
Doesn't she turn to
Also,
sea foam after Prince Eric dies or something?
She
Yeah.
she is saved by the angels and granted 500 years of slavery because good girl.
so I don't mind that she's black so much as I mind that she's not a manatee. And
Yeah,
as a
that too.
mermaid, realistically, she would be a manatee.
I'm just saying, if they cast a black actress and then go, hey, why don't we pick up on all those
Oh.
slavery stories from the Hans Christian Andersen original version, that will, I will be a little upset about that.
I will say, at
Oh, well,
least
since
it'll
it's a black
be
actress, it's okay.
at least it'll be like the first Disney movie where it's a black main character that isn't transformed into an animal for most of the movie.
Yeah.
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 And in fact, she turns into a human for most of the movie. So
Also, the fact that her character, it doesn't matter what skin color she is, and they still go with black is nice. Because all of our ethnic characters in the past were ethnic because of the character having to be ethnic, as opposed to just being, this is a fantasy setting, so it doesn't really matter, so why not be black?
Oh, speaking of ethnic, did you guys see Encanto yet? Because I took Noelle to see it, and it was very cute.
I have not.
It was nice. It was very cute.
No, it's not.
Noelle liked it.
I
She was being edgy because I wouldn't let her sit on my lap.
That was precious in every possible way.
Oh,
And also possessed.
do we have the clipping feature yet?
No. I was just thinking that myself. Like, all the moments that need to be clipped.
I didn't like it. You're silly. Do you want to come say hi now?
Okay, also I looked it up and it is Halle Bailey.
Ah, ha, ha.
Yeah.
Move your lap so I can sit there.
There you go. And they all like your pink hair. They said it makes your eyes pop. Look up. Smile. Smile.
Let me squeeze your head so your eyes pop out.
Smile. Like this. Okay. All right then.
All right. I think we have finished our conversation.
Yeah, I guess.
Let us tell people where we are, how you can be found, and what you're up to. And we'll start with Meadow.
Okay, hello, my name is Meadow. I haven't been because I've been sick and whatnot, but I do live streams similar to this one, but usually with more sprints. On
Calling
Tuesdays,
him out.
calling all of us out. On Tuesdays, I will continue that this coming Tuesday. I've just been battling the flu for the last 3.5 to 4 weeks, and it's not been fun. So I haven't really wanted to socialize at all. And I am also a freelance editor. Jason and I are business partners at Rose City Editing. You can go to our website, rosecityediting.com, to book us, and to look at our prices. I'm also a stay-at-home mom.
No.
This is my gremlin that I look after. Noelle, say hi, everybody.
Hi, everybody.
More of a stay-at-home zookeeper.
Right? So
Cozy up
yeah.
my nose, trying not to do a spit take on that.
Hi, everybody. Hi, everybody.
So this is Noelle. This is the mascot of my channel. Many funny moments have occurred with this thing in attendance. So
Big Johnny.
yeah.
Big Johnny.
I don't have. I will be doing Christmas karaoke probably on Friday, the 24th.
24.
Because usually I do it the last Sunday before Christmas, but that'd be tomorrow, and I don't want to do it tomorrow. So probably Friday, the day before Christmas. So if you're interested, I'm gonna schedule that today on my channel, and yeah.
Cool. Charlie.
I generally do streams all over the place. I will say that next week, because I can already feel like winter break seeping into my bones, they will not be productivity streams. I will be playing Boyfriend Dungeon or some other game on the stream because, yeah, I need to befriend a cat. I like seriously, like I already got my like ideal ending. I made Rowan stop hating me and we defeated the bad guy together. So yay. But I need to befriend a cat. So if you want to join me in the weird and wonderful world that is that, definitely check me out over on Twitch on Wednesday and Friday. Also, for anyone who is curious about stuff that will be happening, I highly recommend that you subscribe to my Project Shadow YouTube channel. Because it's a music channel, I already have a community tab over there and have started posting things over there because I'm going to be doing a lot more on that channel as well in the upcoming year. So definitely check that out if that's something you would be interested in. More pop culture stuff, more music stuff. Yeah, lots more stuff coming.
Cool.
Hey, and I am Chloe Alice Balkin, and I am Existence.
J'existe. I am Jace Maxwell, author of many things that no one has ever read because I have never edited them and put them out. So tomorrow I will not be on Amber's stream because that's my family is having its Christmas get together tomorrow. So if you show up there and you're like, why isn't Jace there? Well, now you know. Jace is having Christmas presents, dinner, everything with family. But because of that, I am free on actual Christmas Day next Saturday, so I will be doing stream at the regular time. Let's see. I do gaming on my Twitch channel on Tuesdays. Recently, I have been very, very deep into Graveyard Keeper. It is addictive. And if you don't know what Graveyard Keeper is, think Stardew Valley, but with necromancy and graveyards.
Yeah, that's about right.
It's dark. It's fun.
There's a lot of desecrating of bodies.
Yes. Very first thing you do in the game is have to remove a chunk of meat from a body, and it immediately gives you recipes for how to cook it.
Before I forget, Jordan's going to be out of town for 2 more weeks for his work thing. While he's gone, I will likely start continuing the Sims series thing that we were doing before, just by myself. So probably sometime this week, I will start continuing that.
And on Thursday is Vampire the Masquerade VTM Mysteries, which is another good time, sort of. It's in a dark and sad place right now, but
But you're having fun with it.
yes. It's dramatic and emotional right now. But that is just part of the game. Ooh, pretty. And I would like to thank and Devin put out more sprints. So if you want to go to check out Devin's playlists, he makes them weekly for every day. Okay, then he makes them daily. I don't know. They're just very useful if you want to find out who's streaming when. Ooh, cheers on the deck. Look at that beautiful deck.
Yeah, this is my current creative outlet of me doing my paint by numbers. This is the picture that it's based off of.
It's very nice.
I'm so upset. I bought a custom paint by numbers with a picture of Noelle on it, and I started working on it, and then Noelle ruined it by spreading paint all over it.
Oh no.
So
That stinks.
Can you use paint remover and start over, or?
well, I had started to take the paint off, but it started to ruin the canvas itself. So I got as much as I could, but it's like covered up a very large portion.
Yeah.
And she spread the paint over the part that I had already painted, so I can't even see the lines anymore to try to fix it.
That's fair. Yeah.
All right, and the long goodbye continues. All right, we will see you next week. Those of us who are able to be here on Christmas. I don't know who will show up. It's all good, and I'll catch you next time.